On the day the crown prince came to propose marriage, the name on the betrothal document was changed to my cousin. Just as I was about to make a scene, a flood of comments suddenly appeared before my eyes. Here we go again. The villainous female supporting character is about to bring up how she saved the male lead's life back then, trying to repay the favor. Even if the male lead takes her as a secondary consort, what difference does it make? The male lead only has eyes for little sister. The villainess actually wants the Marquis to defend her? Hilarious! Little sister is the Marquis's true heiress. Does she think the crown prince replaced the bride so smoothly for no reason? I stared blankly at the comments as the crown prince frowned. Shuowei is kind-hearted. She agreed to let you enter the mansion as a concubine on our wedding day. Today is our engagement celebration. Don't cause trouble. Later, on the crown prince's wedding day, the empress bestowed a marriage decree upon me for the young marquis. The crown prince lost his composure, eyeing, we grew up together since childhood. How could you marry another? Upon learning Crown Prince Chenyi would arrive on the 8th day of the 3rd month to present the betrothal gifts, I prepared my banquet attire early and secretly instructed Nanny to arrange the gift money. Xiao Chui, the maid who loved excitement, rushed in before the Crown Prince's procession even entered the gate. Miss, congratulations. The Crown Prince truly cherishes your childhood bond. Haven't you seen? There are a full 120 palanquins of betrothal gifts. His Highness has already reached our mansion's entrance, and the last palanquin is still at the street corner. Nanny's eyes sparkled with uncontrollable joy, yet she still scolded Xiao Chui in accordance with her station. Times have changed. As those close to the young mistress, we must be especially mindful of our words and actions. Do not bring disgrace upon her. While the wet nurse was distracted, I quietly slipped a silver bracelet onto my left wrist. Chenyi had bought it for me back in Zhaozhou, when he hadn't been found yet, saving every penny from his own meager earnings. The bracelet itself wasn't extraordinary, but the sentiment behind it was priceless. Outside, gongs and drums blared incessantly. We waited a long time, yet no one came to summon us. Nanny clenched her teeth. Miss, this is no time for reserve. Let's go see if something unexpected has happened. I touched the cool silver bracelet on my wrist and led Nanny forward. To our surprise, we saw my parents seated at the head of the table, beaming with joy. Shuowei owes her present fortune entirely to His Royal Highness the Crown Prince's favor. You two must support each other in the days ahead. My cousin Lin Shuowei's cheeks flushed slightly. Yi Gu, today's events came too suddenly for eyeing. If she makes a scene, please don't take it personally. My head felt like it was about to explode. Lin Shuowei actually called my fiancé brother Yi. Back in Zhao Prefecture, she couldn't have cared less about Chenyi. Even when I received Chenyi's silver bracelet, she flaunted her own coral bracelet. Cousin, are you collecting junk? This cheap silver bracelet isn't even good enough for my maidservants. Look at my coral bracelet. Do you even know what coral is? It comes from the deepest seas. There are only 5 strands in all of Great Yong. But now, Chenyi has risen from the son of a lowly clerk to the lofty crown prince. And suddenly, my cousin can coo sweetly, calling him brother Yi. I couldn't care less about anything else. I rolled up my sleeves, ready to give my cousin a piece of my mind, to ask her where she learned such a talent for changing her face. But then, suddenly, comments flooded the screen. Here it comes, here it comes. The villainous female supporting character is about to bring up how she saved the male lead's life back then, trying to cash in on that favor. Even if the male lead takes her as a secondary consort, so what? The male lead only has eyes for little sister. The villainous female supporting character actually wants the Marquis to take her side? Hilarious! Little sister is the Marquis's true daughter. Does she think the crown prince just randomly changed his choice? I stared blankly at the comments, my mind reeling from the information. Was the villainess talking about me? When Chenyi fell into the lake at age 8, all the other kids ran scared. Only I threw down planks and struggled to find a wooden pole to pull him out. And using kindness to demand favors? That's utter nonsense. After I saved him, Chenyi voluntarily became my little shadow. When I climbed trees to steal fruit, he'd eagerly pick them up below, gathering them into a bundle, awing, "You're so amazing." When I fished by the river, though he feared water, he'd squat on the ground digging earthworms for me. When I finally hooked a fish, he'd rush to help me remove it from the hook, ignoring the fishy stench. We grew up together, from 8 to 18, not a day or two, but a long decade. Yet the boy who once followed me became crown prince. He frowned at my rolled-up sleeves. Shuawei is kind-hearted. She promised to let you enter the mansion as a secondary consort on our wedding day. Today is our engagement celebration. Don't cause trouble. My cousin Lin Shuawei's eyes were reddened as she lowered her gaze. I know you saved Brother Yi, but matters of the heart cannot be forced. Besides, you're lazy and dislike managing affairs. In the future, I'll handle the household duties, and you can still accompany Brother Yi on outings. Qinyi looked at Lin Shuawei with heartache. It's precisely because you're too sensible and kind-hearted that she's pushed you around. When she becomes the secondary consort, you must set clear boundaries for her. Don't let saving me make you forget your place. Mother shielded Lin Shuawei behind her. You've been stubborn and unmanageable since childhood. Today is the auspicious day of the Crown Prince's betrothal. Are you going to cause trouble now? Father slammed the table. Enough nonsense. Guards, confine the young lady to her courtyard. The comments streamed on, as lively as ever. Just thinking about that evil female supporting character standing between little sister and the male lead makes me furious. Don't worry, OP. Later on, the male lead dumps that villainess into a military camp to be a camp prostitute. She's just a catalyst for little sister and the male lead's romance. Meibao's parents are the greatest parents in the world. Knowing from childhood that their family lacked the power and influence of the villainess's family, they endured the heartbreak to swap Meibao with the villainess. Later, when the Shin family was in fact as marquises for saving the male lead, they forcefully reclaimed Meibao from the Lin family. On the way back to the courtyard under guard, I finally understood. It turned out the world I inhabited was a book. I was the villainous female supporting character. Lin Shuawei was the absolute heroine. To ensure her privileged life, my parents had swapped me with her in infancy. Qingyi was the absolute male lead. As a child, he was exiled to the common folk during a palace coup and later saved by me after falling into the water. Thus, upon returning to the capital, the emperor rewarded my father by enfaffing him as a marquis and summoning both of us to the court. Qingyi and I grew up together as childhood sweethearts. After his return, he continued to come and go freely in our marquisate. Over time, unbeknownst to me, Qingyi and Lin Shuawei fell for each other. On the day of the betrothal ceremony, they even switched their intended partners. Staring at the tightly shut gates, I clenched my fists. Fine. Very fine. I recalled my childhood hardships in the countryside with my parents. Back then, I envied Lin Shuawei most of all, her endless dresses, her unrestrained pursuits of interests, all indulged by her uncle and aunt at great expense. But all of that was meant for me. And that damned Qingyi, before leaving for the capital, he swore solemnly, when I become the most honored man under heaven, I will make you the most honored woman. His vows still ring in my ears, yet now Qingyi dares to make me a secondary consort? Let him dream on. Using the token bestowed by Her Majesty the Empress, I left the estate and entered the palace. The Empress was dining with the second prince. Spotting me, she beckoned immediately, awing, "Have you eaten? If not, join us for a bite." I hastily curtsied and said I had already eaten. While dismissing me, Her Majesty tenderly ladled a bowl of soup for the second prince. "How old are you now? Still jealous of your brother?" The second prince lifted the bowl and drank it in one gulp. "No matter how old I am, I'm still the child you raised with your own hands. It's not shameful to vie for your affection and act spoiled in front of you." Her Majesty gently tapped the second prince's forehead. "Oh, you. Now off to your lessons. If you're late, the Grand Tutor will surely strike your palms." Watching the second prince's hasty retreat, the smile on Her Majesty's lips slowly faded. "Have you come to ask this palace to intervene on your behalf?" I hastily knelt. "Nothing escapes your Majesty's eyes. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has chosen another bride. This humble maiden feels wronged, but I am not one to be tactless." The Empress's deep gaze settled on my face. "Then why did you enter the palace?" I bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, I have a matter of utmost importance. After much deliberation, I felt it best to confide in you." Her Majesty's delicate brows furrowed. You come from the small province of Zhao. What could possibly be so important? I glanced around at the attendants surrounding us, bit my lip, and remained silent. Her Majesty waved impatiently. You may all withdraw. An eerie silence fell over the room. After a long pause, Her Majesty's voice was calm. Is something wrong with I? I'm not afraid to be honest with you. Back then, I failed to protect him, causing him so much suffering. Now, in my heart, I surpasses everyone else in this world. If you slander him, be prepared to face the consequences. Such unconditional love, I had never known it in all these years. I blinked, hiding the envy and melancholy in my eyes. Does everyone include the second prince? The Empress Dowager sprang to her feet. If you continue to spread slander and utter nonsense, don't blame me for forgetting our past. I shook my head slowly. Your Majesty, you misunderstand. My very presence before you is only by the grace of His Highness the Crown Prince. I stand firmly on your side and his. But perhaps you are unaware, His Highness limps. The Empress advanced step by step, her hand tightening around my throat. Do you know what you're saying? My son is a noble and extraordinary being. Even exiled among commoners, he remains favored by heaven. How dare you curse him simply because he refused to marry you? Suffocation closed in. Darkness flooded my vision. I bit down hard on my tongue to stay lucid, staring into the Empress's bloodshot eyes as I croaked. If you didn't believe it, why are you so agitated? You must have had your doubts too, right? The Empress slowly released her grip on me, collapsing into her chair as if all support had vanished. It cannot be. After that drowning incident, His Highness the Crown Prince survived, but he was left with a limp. It was I, unable to bear the thought of him being mocked by his peers, who, in a moment of inspiration, taught him to wear shoes with different heights. From the outside, there was no visible flaw. But those serving His Highness, those eyeing that position covetously, if they truly sought it, this barely a secret would be uncovered. His Majesty has 4 sons and 5 daughters. By lineage, by background, by the bond with His Majesty, your branch held the winning hand. I heard that a month before Qinyi returned to the capital, His Majesty had already intended to name the second prince as Crown Prince. By both reason and sentiment, the second prince would neither dare nor bear to contend with his own elder brother. Out of respect for Qinye's pride, he will surely bide his time and conceal his ambitions. But the third and fourth princes will show no mercy. Do you wish to lose to consort Shu and her son, only to grovel at her feet in the future? Or would you rather lose to consort De and her son, dragging your intelligent and sensible second prince down to the underworld with you? Today, this humble servant has spoken at length, troubling your Majesty with my words. I await your Majesty's judgment. Having spoken, I dared not meet the Empress's gloomy gaze and knelt prostrate on the floor. A sharp pain shot through my knees. The room was so quiet it made me uneasy. After a long silence, the Empress spoke coldly. Rise. You saved my son's life. Today, I spare you. But if you dare to be insolent again, I will not show you mercy. I scrambled to my feet, stumbling awkwardly. The barrage of comments, silent for so long, once again blurred my vision. What is this evil supporting character trying to do? No. My female lead is destined to become the most powerful woman in the realm. Why is this villainous supporting character so despicable? Can't she just accept defeat? And what kind of scum is the second prince? Everyone knows he ambushed the male lead on his way back to the capital. If the male lead hadn't been lucky, he'd never have made it back alive. And this evil supporting character actually advised the Empress to abandon the male lead. Arg! I wish I could jump into the screen and kill this evil female supporting character. She's like a pest, utterly disgusting. The comments were all breaking down, but I was in high spirits. Little did I know, Her Majesty the Empress glanced at me and added, you hold such significant leverage over I cannot trust you. I shuddered in fright. My rashness had shown, the capital wasn't like Zhao Prefecture. Her Majesty's gaze lingered on me for a long moment. Since you refused to marry my son, I shan't force you. My nephew from my maternal family is lively and playful, a suitable match for you. Once Ice wedding is over, I shall arrange your marriage. Wait, Who is this nephew from her maternal family? How did the plot go off the rails? If the villainous female supporting character doesn't marry into the crown prince's household, how will the female lead's relationship with the male lead progress? Exactly. Without the villainess relentlessly pushing, the male lead wouldn't have promised the female lead that he'd clear the harem and favor only her in the future. The more I read, the angrier I got. So we're all just stepping stones for Lin Shuowei? I refuse. I met the Empress's piercing gaze and bowed deeply. This humble daughter consents. Dragging my weary body back to the mansion, before I could even change out of my sweat-soaked clothes in the courtyard, Mother sent guards to escort me to the ancestral hall. Father held a long whip in his hand. I've warned you time and again to maintain decorum after entering the capital. Yet you dared enter the palace without permission. I'll teach you a lesson before our ancestors. I snatched the whip from his grasp. My cousin's wedding is in half a month, and mine will be decided that day. Do you truly wish me to marry bearing these wounds? I spoke of my betrothal to the young Marquis, Pei Yan, but father surely recalled the crown prince's parting words, that he would take me as a secondary consort on his wedding day. Though merely a minor concubine, it was still a marriage into the imperial family. My father pondered for a moment before finally dropping the whip. Mother gently helped him steady his chest. Master, if scars must be avoided, couldn't she simply kneel in the ancestral hall? Ying is utterly disgraceful. Let her reflect on her actions. I stared at the sparse ancestral tablets in the Shin family shrine, a bitter smile curling my lips. My true ancestors lie with the Lin family in Zhao Prefecture. What does the Shin clan even amount to? 3 days before my cousin Lin Shuowei's wedding, envoys arrived from the Lin household. The benevolent matriarch, the imposing uncle, and the gentle aunt brought 7 ships laden with dowry. When they learned Lin Shuowei was marrying Chen Yi, my childhood sweetheart and the current crown prince, the ever-smiling matriarch's face turned cold. Manhua, I entrusted Shuowei to you. You promised to care for her well. How could you treat my Shuowei this way? Mother's face twisted instantly under the matriarch's harsh words. Cousin Lin Shuowei rushed forward, her voice urgent. Grandmother marrying brother Yu was my idea. Aunt couldn't refuse me. Why scold her? In the capital, I'll only have Aunt as family. Aunt Lin's expression darkened further. She frowned. He was Ai Ying's betrothed. How could you possibly want to marry him? How do you expect Ai Ying to face the world? You've made me furious. Cousin Lin's impatience grew. Mother, people naturally seek higher ground. Am I supposed to reject the crown prince's affection and forfeit the chance to rise above others? Brother Yi cherishes me. Whose parents are you, anyway, that you're so bent on protecting someone else? Uncle slammed his hand on the table. You fool! Can't you use your brain? If the crown prince can abandon Ai Ying today, how could he treat you well tomorrow? We've pampered you like a precious jewel since childhood, and this is the shallow-mindedness you've developed? My eyes stung with tears. These dignified, upright elders, they were my true parents and grandmother. Seriously, what's wrong with the Lin family? Look how upset our little sister is. But I think the Lin family has a point. Just because Lin Shuowei is the protagonist, does that mean she can steal someone else's fiancé? The comments stream blared incessantly, yet I volunteered to escort the Lin family to the guest quarters. All the way there, the matriarch clasped my hand, repeating apologies over and over. Uncle was deeply disheartened. Shuowei doesn't act like a Lin family daughter at all. How could she be so opportunistic? Glancing around to ensure no servants were eavesdropping in the annex, I leaned close to my uncle. Uncle, a couple days ago when I went to pay respects at Mother's quarters, I overheard her arguing with my cousin. My cousin claimed she was the legitimate daughter of the Marquis's household and asked Mother what she was hesitating about, why she wouldn't give her a more generous dowry. The moment these words left my mouth, all 3 members of the Lin family grew solemn. The matriarch's expression turned stern. Back then, when Manhua was about to give birth, she insisted on staying at the Lin residence. No matter how we urged her to return home, she refused. My aunt's brows knitted tightly. She was walking perfectly fine one day when, for some reason, she twisted her ankle. She pulled me down with her. We ended up giving birth in the same room. The comments section erupted with even more fervor. That doesn't add up. The supporting character is lying. When did she hear about this? The female lead has always been cautious. She never allowed her parents to mention this to the Shin family. Then how did she find out? This plot is getting increasingly off track. I'm losing confidence. The male lead later overpowered the other princes to ascend the throne, and the dowry from these ships played an indispensable role. My uncle solemnly warned me never to reveal this. My aunt took my hand, studying my face and my hands. When she saw the mole on my wrist, tears instantly fell from her eyes. During the birth, I clearly saw that mole on my daughter's wrist. But later, I couldn't find it anywhere on Shuoei. I thought I must have been mistaken, but it turns out the children were switched. Grandmother sprang to her feet. Her mother shamelessly climbed into bed with another man. As a concubine's daughter, I devoted myself to arranging her marriage. After she wed, she returned to her family home time and again to beg for money, and I helped her whenever I could. Uncle closed his eyes tightly. Wasn't I kind enough to my sister and brother-in-law? How dare they swap my child? Auntie pulled me into her embrace, large tears falling onto my hand. My poor child. She treated you badly when you were young. I warned her many times, but she told me she loved Shuoei more. How foolish I was. Why didn't I think to question it? As the old man beat his chest in anguish, I calmly reminded him, the Shin family harbors wolfish ambitions and selfish motives. The Lin family has suffered too many losses at their hands. What about the dowry of 7 ships? My uncle's eyes reddened. He clenched his fist and slammed it on the table. The Shin family has gone too far. On the way back from the courtyard, my heart was far from as calm as my expression suggested. Clutched in my arms were 50,000 taels of silver notes, plus a mountain of land holdings and shops, heavy as lead, mirroring the weight of the Lin family's hearts toward me. I recalled these years of being scorned by my parents, growing wild in the countryside, enduring my mother's endless questions, when will you ever be as sensible and obedient as Shuoei? I was bitter, I was sad, and I grew more stubborn and reckless. Yet a child's innate longing for parental affection trapped me within this twisted relationship, where my reckless charges always lacked direction. But it turned out all this stemmed from one truth: I was not my parents' child. They harbored malicious intent. No matter how well I behaved, no matter how earnestly I pleaded, I could never earn a shred of their affection. I collapsed onto the courtyard's stone steps, letting tears surge uncontrollably. I told myself, you're only allowed to be this vulnerable one last time. Suddenly, a derisive snort pierced the air. You cry like this over the crown prince's marriage? And you claim you'd willingly marry me? I frantically wiped the tears from my face, squinting at the youth straddling the courtyard wall. Dressed in black robes, he stared at me with wide, unflinching eyes. Who said I was crying for him? The youth pressed his fist to his lips. Or could it be that learning you're betrothed to a wastrel like me has you weeping with sorrow? My tear-blurred eyes finally focused on the comments. This villainous supporting character is so melodramatic. The Lin family even gave her the bride's dowry, and she still cries. Agreed. Could it be that this was originally her parents' property? Why should that imposter Lin Shuoei get it? I can't figure out this young marquis. Is he good or evil? You skimmers, go back and reread page 68. Pei Yan isn't some nameless extra. The class monitor's back. Holy crap, Pei Yan and the estate where his grandmother recuperates are both in Zhao Prefecture. I narrowed my eyes, rising to scrutinize the youth on the wall. The more I looked, the more familiar he seemed. It was you! You pushed Li Yi into the water? You knew his whereabouts all along. Let me guess, Li Yi getting lost in the woods at midnight was your doing too? The youth leapt down from the wall, his expression turning serious. Has anyone ever told you that being clever can easily lead to your downfall? Li Yi betrayed me, turning me into a laughingstock throughout the capital, then had the audacity to force me into being his concubine. By entering the palace and informing the empress, I made my stance clear. Why must you still test me? Pei Yan's tense expression finally relaxed. I find myself looking forward to the marriage arranged by my aunt all the more now. Only Li Yi is a fool, mistaking a fish's eye for a pearl. Well, those who betray true feelings deserve to die. He's not wronged. After Pei Yan left, I squeezed the thick bundle of assets in my embrace. The weight on my heart finally settled. Whatever schemes they plot, I have money. On the crown prince's wedding day, Li Yi, clad in a crimson wedding robe, held Lin Shuowei's hand and coldly ordered me, "Today is Shuowei's joyous occasion. As a secondary wife, you must not show disrespect to the principal wife. I will arrange for someone to fetch you after nightfall. Then, slip out the side gate and quietly follow the matron to the side courtyard." I clenched my fists, seething with the urge to punch Li Ye's smug face. My nails dug into my flesh, and I gritted my teeth against the pain, barely holding back the raging fury. Lin Shuowei knelt on the ground, bowing deeply to the marquis and his wife seated above. "Your daughter bids farewell to father and mother." My so-called parents stood with tears in their eyes, their gazes filled with both reluctance and pride. The surrounding crowd murmured in confusion, "Wait, isn't Miss Lin supposed to be the Lin family's daughter? Why is she calling the marquis and his wife father and mother? Probably the veil is obscuring her vision." Though it does seem like the marquis and his wife are genuinely treating her like their own daughter they're giving away. The Lin family is the wealthiest in Zhao Prefecture. Miss Lin's dowry must be quite substantial, right? Her aunt's eyes were reddened as she pulled out a thin dowry list and handed it to Lin Shuowei. "A daughter married away is like water poured out. Shuowei, you must take care of yourself." The festive atmosphere froze instantly, and the surrounding onlookers exchanged curious glances. Mother's expression stiffened. "Eldest sister-in-law, Shuowei's marriage means our Lin family stands behind her. What you just said is rather hurtful, don't you think? And this dowry list, did you perhaps take the wrong one? Shuowei is to become crown princess, yet you prepared only 8 palanquins worth of dowry? And this embroidered shoe brocade, it's a pattern popular when we were children. Even if you gave it as a bridal gift, she couldn't possibly use it now." Lin Shuowei abruptly lifted the veil from her head and snatched the dowry list from her mother's hands. The makeup she just applied instantly blurred with tears. "This isn't right. Mother, you clearly prepared 120 palanquins of dowry for me. When you came from Zhao Prefecture, you brought 7 fully loaded ships. The shop in Dongxing Alley, the 10,000 acres of fertile land in the western suburbs, and the hot spring estate south of the city. Didn't you promise to give all of these to your daughter?" A shadow of gloom crossed Li Ye's previously triumphant face. "Does the Lin family look down on me? Are they deliberately humiliating the royal family?" Aunt Lin's tears flowed like a burst dam as she stepped closer to Mother. "Manhua, how have I treated you all these years? How has your eldest brother treated you? Has the Lin family ever wronged you?" Terrified, Mother stumbled backward, finally collapsing onto a chair while clutching that thin piece of paper. My aunt took a deep breath, holding the birthmark on my wrist directly before my mother. On the day of the birth, I clearly saw the birthmark on the child's wrist. "You told me that in the throes of labor, one's senses can grow hazy, so I didn't think more of it. How could I have ever imagined you would swap my child? Lin Manhua, are you even human?" The gathered guests erupted into complete commotion. The Marquis of Xiaoyao title was bestowed upon Xinying's father for saving the crown prince. If Xinying's biological father is Lin Zhao, shouldn't the Marquis title be transferred to him? What do you know? That Xiaoyao Marquis title is just a ceremonial position. The Lin family's generations of wealth and connections, when His Royal Highness the Crown Prince abandoned the Marquis's daughter to marry the Lin family's daughter, was it because she was better than Xining? The comments flashed by in a blur before my eyes. Are these ancient people really this sharp? So the male lead ditched the evil female supporting character for the female lead just for the Lin family's assets? What does that make my die-hard fandom? Guess you're not picky. This plot is getting so twisted I'm scared to keep reading. Feels like the leads have a whole pile of bombshells waiting to explode. Hey, why take a novel so seriously? Flip the script. From the female supporting character's perspective, this is pure feel-good drama. Rumors spread like wildfire, especially since Aunt Lin hadn't falsely accused Lin Manhua. Forced to sit in the chair, she couldn't utter a word for a long while. Lin Shuowei's tears streamed down her face as she desperately tugged at her aunt's sleeve. Mother, I knew nothing about this. You raised me from childhood. Think of all these years we've shared. Her aunt shoved Lin Shuowei away violently, her teeth gritted. I have my own flesh and blood daughter. Who would spoil a cuckoo that has usurped the nest? If you truly knew nothing, how could you have called Shen Zishan and Lin Manhua father and mother? Lin Shuowei took a deep breath and wiped her face upward. Mother, look clearly. I am about to become the exalted crown princess. Are you Lin family truly prepared to oppose me and the entire crown prince's household? Li Yi hurriedly pulled Lin Xuewei back. What nonsense are you spouting? The one betrothed to me is clearly Ying. My crown princess can only ever be Ying. Mother's voice cracked with anguish. The marriage contract clearly states your crown princess is the eldest legitimate daughter of the Lin family. After uttering this, she abruptly covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. You can't do this. Xuewei is wearing the wedding gown for you today. If you don't marry her, how can she possibly survive? Li Ye's gaze, however, burned intensely upon me. Ying, we've supported each other for 10 years. I was wrong before. Now, give me a chance to fulfill my promise. Chaos erupted in the hall, and subtitles flashed rapidly across the screen, but I couldn't spare a thought for any of it. The eunuch attendant to Her Majesty the Empress had arrived to deliver an imperial decree. Li Yi immediately stepped forward. Mother, surely you wish to spare the crown princess consort's dignity? Eunuch, there's been a misunderstanding. My crown princess consort is Shining. When you read the imperial decree shortly, do not mistake her identity. Lin Xuewei stared in disbelief, pulling a golden hairpin from her hair and pressing it against her throat. Yigu, I am your crown princess consort. You promised to make Shining a secondary consort. Even if she becomes a secondary consort, the Lin family owes her for all those years. We'll give her the dowry of 7 ships. You care for her, I'll make room for her in the palace someday. But if you abandon me today, how can I go on living? Li Yi snorted coldly. Lin Xuewei, back in Zhaozhou, you were the one who looked down on me the most. You were the one whispering slander about me into Ying's ear. Did you truly think I didn't know? Eunuch, issue the imperial decree promptly. Don't delay the auspicious hour for my wedding to Ying. His father, who had remained silent, slipped a jade pendant that warmed to the touch into the eunuch's hand. Eunuch, the marriage between Xuewei and the crown prince is known throughout the realm. To change the bride now, where would that leave our marquis's household? The steward eunuch frowned. What on earth is going on? I'm here to announce the imperial decree granting the marriage between Lady Shenying and young Master Pei Yan on behalf of Her Majesty. You're beating around the bush. Eunuch Shua at the Pei residence will report back before us. Li Yi stared in disbelief. Eunuch, have you made a mistake? Ying and I grew up together since childhood. How could she marry another behind my back? The eunuch thrust the edict directly into Li Ye's hands. Your Highness, please see for yourself. The Empress commands they wed in half a month. How could this be false? Father exhaled a sigh of relief while Mother hurriedly placed the veil over Lin Xuewei's head. Our marquis's household possesses some modest assets. You shall marry first, we'll supplement your dowry later. My uncle and aunt surrounded me, asking about Pei Yan. The worry in their eyes seemed genuine. Lin Xuewei moved closer to Li Yi. Brother Yi, we should board the wedding sedan now, lest we miss the auspicious hour. Li Yi burst into a maniacal laugh. Excellent. Ying! Excellent indeed. You think an imperial decree lets you leave me? The Empress is my birth mother. You'll stay home, organize your dowry, and wait to marry me obediently. With that, Li Yi abandoned the guests and Lin Xuewei in her crimson wedding gown, galloping off toward the palace. The assembled crowd exchanged glances, yet politely took their leave. The comments flooded in faster than I could keep up. He's lost it, completely lost it. Did Li Yi choose Lin Xuewei just for the Lin family's wealth? This plot twist is giving me a headache. The male lead just ditched his bride-to-be? Ran off? Just ran off? Seeing how the eunuch treats the male lead, the Empress clearly chose the second prince after all. The Empress favors the male lead so much because of guilt. When she learned he was alive, even knowing he wasn't the Emperor's biological son, she pushed relentlessly for him to become crown prince. But he's utterly hopeless, a cripple, no less. The palace intrigues shift in an instant, and the Empress has far more enemies than just her own son. So many heads hang by a thread. Sigh. Looks like my male and female leads are doomed. I stared at the endless stream of comments, a cold sweat breaking out on my back. Li Yi isn't royal blood? Where did he even come from? His second brother, his grandmother, his cousin, they all want him dead? Then there's me, saved him, got praised by His Majesty, my father made Marquis of Xiaoyao. My head was spinning. I must sever ties with the Marquis's household immediately. It's also time for Lin Shuowei and I to go our separate ways. Ignoring Lin Shuowei collapsed on the ground and the Marquis and his wife's venomous stares, I approached the old matriarch. Grandmother, I am the Lin family's child. My cousin and I should switch back. Uncle nodded vigorously, that's only right. Auntie was already hugging me, sobbing, my poor daughter. But Lin Manhua lunged at me, tugging at my sleeve. What on earth is going on? How did our Shuowei stop being a Lin family child overnight? Why did Li Yi suddenly change his mind and want to marry you? And what about that Pei family? She raised her arm, poised to slap me. You troublemaker. You scourge. I'll beat you to death. I braced myself to fight back, but my aunt stepped in front of me. One hand pinned Lin Manhua's arm, while the other landed a fierce slap across her furious face. Lin Manhua. After all the harm you've done, you dare strike my daughter. Lin Shuowei crawled on her knees to her aunt, clutching her calf and sobbing, Mother, I didn't know anything. Auntie did all this. You raised me. After suffering such humiliation today, how could you abandon me? Her aunt kicked Lin Shuowei. How could you be a daughter of the Lin family? Selfish, greedy, without any integrity. I accompanied my aunt, no, I should say my mother, to the Lin family's residence in the capital. No sooner had Nanny Ma arrived at the Lin residence than the matrons attending my mother seized her, bombarding her with questions about amusing anecdotes from my childhood. The meals Mother prepared perfectly suited my tastes, and my courtyard was the most lavish in the entire estate. When I protested, Mother's eyes immediately filled with tears. I had never known such indulgence and tolerance before. Lost in this warmth, I too found my own eyes welling up. Each day, beyond preparing for the wedding, I clung to Mother and Grandmother. During this time, Li Yi sought me out many times. Beyond instructing servants to return his silver bracelet, I never saw him again. Not until the day of my wedding to Pei Yan, as the bridal sedan chair approached the Pei residence, did Li Yi act. Disregarding the Pei family members and the assembled guests, he leveraged his status as crown prince to forcefully lift my sedan curtain. Grabbing my sleeve, he demanded I go with him. Awing, I refused to believe all these years of affection can be forgotten so easily. When I was 10 and lost in the woods, you were the first to rush in, risking danger to find me. On our journey back to the capital, when ambushes lurked, you shielded me with your own body. You are destined to be my wife, Li Ye's wife. I will never allow you to marry another. Come back, Awing. I won't make you a concubine. I'll marry you properly, making you Li Ye's one and only wife. His gaze was so sincere, his deep eyes seeming to pull me back to our days in Zhaozhou. Back then, I was the unloved daughter of the Shen family, and he was the neglected adopted son brought home by others. He seemed born under an unlucky star, constantly facing danger, and I saved him time and time again. Later, he followed me like a little shadow. Though I pretended to dislike it, deep down I cherished it. During those loneliest years, he was my only warmth. I never doubted his sincerity, but true feelings can shift in an instant. The capital's wealth and splendor blinded him. He became crown prince, yet his foundation was weak. He needed the Lin family's fortune to pave his path, I could understand that. But he should never, ever have forced me to become a concubine, using me as a stepping stone. He should have known, Ying of Zhaozhou never takes a loss. So before the guests could question my integrity, I slapped his face 5 times, then wailed, "What do you think you're doing, Your Highness? I was personally betrothed to Pei Yan by Her Majesty the Empress." Li Ye's lip bled from my blows. His gaze turned icy, a smirk curling his lips as he licked the blood from his mouth. "Mark my words," he said. "Sooner or later, you will be mine. If not today, then tomorrow. You will still be mine." He flung open the curtain, ready to leave. But then a deep, stern voice boomed from the courtyard, "I never knew my son was such a fool for love. While I am still in good health, does this upstart dare covet the throne beneath me?" The emperor's wrath caused everyone present to kneel instantly. The empress cautiously interceded, "Your Majesty, you know well that Yi grew up in the countryside and is unfamiliar with court etiquette." Pei Yan ignored the warning, stubbornly kneeling with a thud and demanding justice. "Uncle. Today, on my wedding day, the crown prince publicly humiliated me by flirting with my wife. He even declared she would eventually be his. This empire is yours, uncle. I beg you to uphold my honor." This second male lead seems straightforward, but he's actually a dark lotus. The villainous female supporting character is also cunning. With these two together, it's going to be quite the show. How did the crown prince become so dim-witted? Handing targets to the female supporting character and the second male lead? Has the empress given up on the crown prince too? Otherwise, she wouldn't have publicly called him a country bumpkin. I've lost all foresight into the plot now, it's completely beyond my expectations. I thought it would go this way, but he did that. As things unfolded, my little sister became an insignificant extra. Have we unknowingly become fans of the villainous female supporting character? I don't know what they mean by fans, but I heard the emperor fly into a rage, ordering the crown prince confined within the palace, forbidden to leave without cause. I was quite satisfied that Pei Yan had coordinated so seamlessly without consulting me beforehand. So when his long, pale fingers danced nimbly across me on the bed, though uncomfortable, I forced myself to adapt to the foreign sensation. This rascal brought me to the peak, then leaned his carefree, debonair face close to mine, raising an eyebrow. "Awing, care to explain why you always opposed me back in Zhao Prefecture?" My mind went blank, my body felt like ants were gnawing at it. Frustrated, I pounded his chest. "So it was you who attacked Li Yi?" Pei Yan narrowed his eyes. "Why do you meddle in everything? When he fell in the water, you insisted on saving him. When he got lost, you risked your own safety to search for him late at night. When he was hunted, you shielded him with your body. How many more surprises do you have in store that I don't know about?" I shoved him hard, turning the tables. I bound his wrists with a handkerchief and pulled a veil over his eyes. He let out an exasperated groan. I hissed coldly, "You've been watching me all along. You planted a trap before the empress even knew, just waiting for me to stumble into it." Pei Yan's face flushed crimson. "No, it wasn't a trap. I just found you intriguing and wanted to be by your side. How did you know I'd go to the empress? How could you be so certain she'd arrange our marriage?" Pei Yan's voice cracked. "Only you couldn't see Li Yi and Lin Shuowei had been having an affair. With your temper, how could you not storm the palace once you found out? As for being certain she'd betroth you to me, well, I'm the queen's thorn in her side. You're from the countryside and have followed Li Yi for so many years. She thought this would humiliate me." The red candle by the bedside shyly closed its eyes. When I woke groggily the next morning, Pei Yan was propping his head up, staring at me. The bashfulness concealed in the darkness spread across my face in that instant. While drawing my eyebrows at the dressing table, I pressed him with righteous indignation. "Have you long harbored feelings for me?" Pei Yan's eyes sparkled with amusement as he took my hand. "Come on, let's pay our respects to grandmother. She might just have the answers to your questions." We paid our respects to the Pei family matriarch in the ancestral hall. Grandmother Pei gazed at me with affection. "Back when Yi was in Zhao Prefecture, it was all thanks to you." I found these people deeply contradictory. Grandmother Pei seemed to cherish Li Yi. Yet the second prince and Pei Yan were eager to see Li Yi dead. Fortunately, Grandmother Pei cleared up my confusion herself. In my youth, I had little luck with bearing children. So I adopted a daughter from outside. That child was blessed. Just 6 months after I brought her home, I conceived Pei Yan's father. I was so grateful to that little girl and spoiled her rotten. But who knew that when she grew up, she would fall in love with her own younger brother? Your father and I firmly refused. She was also betrothed by the Empress Dowager to become the Emperor's consort. But I never imagined that during those days unknown to us, she was seducing Yu's father night after night. By the time the palace sent people to fetch her, she was already over a month pregnant. My eyes widened instantly. The old lady sighed. I ordered her to abort the child, but she refused, saying if pressed further, she would take her own life in the palace. After the child was born, I grew increasingly fearful, especially since the child bore such a striking resemblance to Yan's father. So I secretly created chaos and had the child smuggled out. I couldn't help but interrupt. You knew he was a curse, why did you spare Li Ye's life? Pei Yan snorted coldly. The wet nurse by grandmother's side was too soft-hearted. She abandoned him in a village and returned to report. By the time we learned he was still alive, he was already 7 years old. Grandmother couldn't bring herself to abandon him again. Did grandmother move to Zhao Prefecture because she feared others would find Li Yi, or that the Pei family would harm Lin Yi? The old lady closed her eyes wearily. Yan's mother passed away after giving birth to him. His father, however, was utterly reckless. Upon learning of that child's whereabouts, he insisted on searching for him regardless of the consequences. I locked him in the mansion, but stubborn as he was, he actually died of sheer frustration. Thus, the young Yan harbored deep hatred for the very existence of that scourge, Li Yi. Yet I still couldn't quite grasp, what about the second prince? The old lady shot Pei Yan a reproachful glance. Yan believed this was the Empress's sin. He felt our Pei family shouldn't bear the consequences alone, so he dragged the second prince into it too. Everything finally made sense. So even if Li hadn't been lame, your Pei family and the second prince would never have allowed him to ascend the throne. I struggled to process this tangled web of information when Lin Shuowei came to seek me out at the Pei residence. Her eyes were bloodshot as she glared at me with fury. How could you be so heartless? Didn't Brother Yi treat you well enough? Even if he married me for my dowry, he promised to give you the position of secondary consort. If it weren't for your good fortune, how could you ever have been worthy of the esteemed crown prince? I found myself oddly amused. What business is it of yours? Lin Shuowei drew a deep breath. If you hadn't secretly revealed our true origins to the Lin family, I wouldn't have been abandoned on my wedding day. Now Li Yi says that if I beg you to intercede for him before the emperor, he'll lift his confinement and marry me in a grand palanquin. I shrugged my shoulders, me, a newlywed, going to the palace to shamelessly plead for the crown prince who once treated me with contempt? Have I lost my mind? Lin Shuowei sniffled, but this is the only way Yi Ge will marry me. You owe me this. You must repay me. The emotions I'd been suppressing erupted at that moment. I slapped her beautiful face repeatedly. Lin Shuowei, no, Shin Shuowei. Remember this, your entire family owes me, especially you. Shin Shuowei covered her eyes. If it weren't for you exposing the baby swap on my wedding day, I closed my eyes briefly. Is your brain just for decoration? Cause and effect, if your parents hadn't been selfish, we wouldn't have been switched at birth. Amid the argument, Pei Yan arrived, drawn by the commotion. The moment Shin Shuowei saw him, she screamed at Pei Yan, "Do you know that Lin Ning spent an entire night cavorting with men when she was a child?" My veins throbbed with rage. That idiot! I'd gone into the woods under cover of darkness to find Li Yi, yet in her mouth it became some shameful affair. Pei Yan had already kicked her away. I don't need others to tell me about my wife. Especially not you, a filthy creature reeking of blood. Shin Shuowei spat out a mouthful of blood, then cackled maniacally, "I'll wait to see your retribution come. I may reek of filth, but your wife has been cavorting with other men for 10 years, 10 whole years. Who knows how many times she's had abortions. Only you treat her like a treasure. If not for the Empress's arranged marriage, who would want this worn-out shoe?" My mind buzzed, blocking out everything else. I grabbed the broom by the door and swung it at her with all my might. "You filthy-mouthed bitch. I'll make you shut your filthy mouth." By the time Pei Yan caught me in his arms, Shin Shuowei's face and body were already a battered mess from my blows. Shin Zishan, eyes red, carried Shin Shuowei into the carriage. Lin Manhua let out a shrieking cry and charged straight at me. I sidestepped to avoid her, but Lin Manhua couldn't control her momentum. She slammed headfirst into the stone lion statue, her forehead gushing blood. Shin Zishan, brows lowered, lifted Lin Manhua into the carriage as well. Servants hurriedly cleaned the stone lion. I watched the carriage grow distant. The Shin family shouldn't be able to stir up much trouble, right? Pei Yan squeezed my palm. "On our second day of marriage, who has the heart to deal with them? Come, let's go to my study. I want to show you the painting I made for you earlier." I spent a long, leisurely period at the Pei residence. My parents, unable to let go of their holdings in Zhao Prefecture, insisted on returning. With tears welling in my eyes, I watched my parents' and grandmother's ship grow ever more distant. Once it shrank to a tiny black dot on the horizon, I narrowed my eyes. To spare the Lin family worry, I'd been putting on a good face all this time. Now, the time for reckoning had come. During our peaceful interlude, Emperor Li Yi had long been released from confinement by his son-obsessed father. Qin Shuowei immediately threw herself at him. To avoid further attention, Li Yi reluctantly accepted her as a secondary consort. But this was far from enough. The Empress, driven by maternal love, hesitated to act despite her resolve. The Emperor's health was deteriorating rapidly. We dared not gamble. So, before the hunt, Pei Yan ordered his mole in the Crown Prince's residence to swap out Li Yi's specially made shoes. Li Yi was showing off his skills on the hunting grounds. Just as he was triumphantly preparing to present the fox he'd hunted to His Majesty, the sole of his uneven shoe suddenly came off. Li Yi limped awkwardly to the front of the stage before everyone. The Emperor's face darkened instantly. The Empress knelt on the ground, her heart aching. Qilong, Ice Feet are injured, yet he still shows such filial devotion. The Emperor forced a placating smile, but his tightly pressed lips betrayed his foul mood. Sure enough, within days, the Emperor seized upon a trivial matter to depose Li Yi as Crown Prince. The shoes Pei Yan had swapped were specially crafted by Qin Shuowei to curry favor with Li Yi. Now, according to reports from spies planted by Pei Yan, Li Yi beat and berated Qin Shuowei daily. Qin Shuowei returned to her parents' home in tears. Her parents, helpless, tried their best to provide Li Yi with financial and material support, even helping him meddle in the imperial army's provisions. This was precisely when the second prince caught him red-handed. Upon learning of my pregnancy, the Qin family's embezzlement of provisions led to an imperial decree ordering their entire clan executed. In the Ministry of Justice's dungeon, Qin Zishan, unable to endure the punishment, revealed Li Yi's involvement. Enraged, the emperor banished Li Yi to guard the imperial tombs in the western suburbs. Before his departure, Li Yi disguised himself and sought me out. Trust me. You've always been the only one I've ever loved. Whether from disgust or morning sickness, I couldn't hold back and vomited right then and there. Li Yi's expression darkened. Gritting his teeth, he said, "Before coming here, I sold Qin Shuowei to the lowest brothel. I know you have no feelings for Pei Yan. The western suburbs are remote. I have some fake death potions I saved earlier. Could you accompany me there? I promise to treat you well for the rest of my life. We'll be together forever, just the two of us. I'll never make you suffer as a concubine again." I couldn't help but laugh softly, gently stroking my belly. "Thank you for your kindness, but I'm afraid I'm pregnant now. I'm quite content living happily as I am. I've no desire to endure the cold winds and hardships of the western suburbs." Li Yi's face twisted in disbelief. We grew up together. How could you marry someone else and have a child? You were meant to be only mine." Morning sickness struck, and facing Li Yi's exquisite features, I couldn't hold back and vomited again. As Li Yi walked out, head bowed in dejection, I called out to him. Li Yi turned back, his eyes lighting up with hope. You still love me, don't you? Everything you're doing now is beyond your control. Abort the child, and we can be together forever." I flashed a bright smile. "Li Yi, please never show your face to me again. You disgust me." When my little daughter turned 3, the second prince ascended the throne as emperor. The former empress, now Empress Dowager, wept bitterly. "He is still your brother. He suffers in the western suburbs. Help him." The second prince turned away hastily, tears spilling uncontrollably. "Mother, do you know how much I envy my elder brother? His origins are shameful, his manners crude, yet he receives your most ardent love. You would rather drag the entire Pei family, into your grave than let him go." The Empress Dowager stared in disbelief. You clung to me constantly, telling me countless times how much you missed your elder brother. How could you think that? I was only doing what any mother should do." The second prince sneered. "What you should have done most was abort him the moment you conceived him." The Empress Dowager collapsed into her seat, speechless for a long moment. The second prince, now the new emperor, had no interest in her words. He went straight to the imperial mausoleum. He ordered Li Ye's tendons severed, savoring his piercing screams. Stomping on Li Ye's head, he spat, "Do you know? You should never have been born." Pei Yan, who had accompanied the new emperor to the imperial mausoleum, returned home and sat in the study for a long time, holding the little one in his arms. Shall we take grandmother with us to Zhao Prefecture? I accompanied His Majesty to the western suburbs today. His cruelty and viciousness left me shaken. When Li Yi was buried, not a single inch of his body was spared, yet his eyes remained wide open. Our Pei family is small. You've just reunited with the Lin family after so long. Why don't we simply return to Zhaozhou? I smiled in agreement. Long-absent bullet comments reappeared before my eyes, though this time they signaled farewell. The male lead is dead, the female lead suffers humiliation in a brothel, the plot has completely collapsed. Collapsed? I won't see the plot for ages now. The villainous female supporting character has likely stolen the spotlight. We're bidding farewell to her too. Watching the clear bullet comments slowly dissolve into wispy smoke, I quietly exhaled in relief. Living under constant scrutiny was quite taxing, after all. Now, I sincerely wish everyone behind those bullet comments could live out their own brilliance. In the season of spring warmth and blossoming flowers, we set off for Zhaozhou, bid farewell by the willows lining both banks of the river. The end.